Good morning. How you guys doing? So we're switching it up again today. Yesterday, we are going in the past. The past is important. How do you know where you're going if you don't know where you've been? However, things that happen to you are an experience. They're not something you should continue to live. And as I share my life story, please understand the only reason I can even share it with you is it's already unpacked. It's already been dealt with. I've already had to accept the consequences of how those actions affected my life and how many years it took me to recognize each and every action that was causing disharmony in my personal space. This set of mindsets, this theology, is to help you come across things and fix them in your own life so you quit fucking the world up. This ignorance is bliss thing has just really got under my skin a little bit. So if I make these videos, even if nobody sees them, the truth is out there. The truth that you can recover. Not how to recover, that somebody has ultimate truth, that someone's a guru or a fucking prophet or nothing else, but that someone else did it. And if someone else can do it, you can do it too, because it's part of the human experience. You could say I'm making these videos in defiance of how I was supposed to be. So I hope you've been tuning in, because today we're going to talk about a good one. And don't forget, I got to put my little disclaimer in. There's 40 videos before this one. So if you think this is the linchpin, if you think this is the cornerstone, if you think that this is the one, well, you missed the 41s before this. And they all go together to make up the number one. And the number one that I've decided to add all these into is called free will. They use signs for numbers and equations all the time. I can use numbers to make words work too. There's no rule that says I cannot do so. Today we're going to talk about mindfulness. So first off, let's pull the word apart a little bit, because mindful is mindful. Ness, you know that. So as soon as I say it like that, all of a sudden your mind starts jumping around like, wait a minute, I thought I knew exactly what mindfulness was. Well, that's okay. So is everyone else, because that's what we're being taught that it means. See, that's the problem that I have. It's not even that you teach me what a word means. It's that you teach me that's all that a word means. See, that's where I think the trap is in all this, is being mindful of the fact that you can use a word to mean something else. We know this is true. This isn't some sci-fi nonsense. This isn't made up language. We know we can use words and make them mean something else. Watch. And I'll use a really bad word because I like to do it like this. Fuck you. You see that? Now watch this. Watch what's going on. What the fuck? You can watch that as many times as you want. You let me know how what I just said about words being able to mean fucking anything we want. Tell me how I didn't just do that. And with a word that most people find socially unacceptable. So if I can do it with socially unacceptable words, why are you surprised that I can take the human language and rip it apart and change it into whatever I want it to be? Show me the rule in the rule books for humankind that says I'm not supposed to think. Mindfulness. This is a great mindset to have, I think. To be mindful, to be thinking, because that's what I think mindful is I am thinking. I think, therefore I am. You ever heard that statement? That's what mindfulness is. What's the opposite of mindfulness? Empty-headed. So instead of just being mindful of a situation, why aren't our minds just full? It's a question I had to ask myself. Why is it that most people don't have inner dialogues with themselves on the daily, that they don't talk to themselves all the time and think about things and express themselves in different ways? And like, why don't people fill their minds? It's theirs. They don't have to leave all that empty space. It's just like when they told us, you get told in school that we use 10% of our brains. It's a fucking lie. They lie to us on the most basic of levels. We understand what 10% of the brain does when it lights up. Let me re-express that to you. 90% of everything we actually do with our brains, we don't even have the question to ask to gain the answer to. 90%. Never mind the argument I made before, where let's be arrogant and say we know 50% of everything there is to know. We don't even know 12% of what there is to know about our own minds. Why would there be so much rules, thought processes, lids on the very thing that they don't even want to tell you is true? Like, how can you teach me in school something different than what's truth? And then when I become an adult and I find out it's not true, how would my life have been affected if I would have thought about it differently the whole time? You're stealing my ability to think by telling me what words are, and only then are they. You see what I'm saying to you? Why is our entire system set up to keep you from being mindful? To keep you from feeling guilty about the bad things you do, to keep you from feeling like you have to put in any work when you can just discard and get a new one. Why would it be this way? And it couldn't be unconsciously, not according to the natural rhythm of life. This couldn't be. Do you understand? Like, nobody doesn't want to get better. And even to be better at being ruthless, everybody wants to learn. So why do they teach us how to learn? This is what being mindful brings you into a state of questioning everything. Knowing from your own senses that something isn't right about the truth that you're being presented. Mindfulness. There's some really easy ways to do this. Really is. The easiest way, and I swear to God, there's a whole cheat sheet. If you can't follow the cheat sheet to figure this out, you're willfully not wanting to be mindful. And that's your free will choice. But if you're somebody else's pawn because of it, I don't feel bad for you. I don't. You chose to grab somebody else's pocket and walk around the track, if you know what I mean. That's on you. But this idea of being mindful, I love it. My mind being full of thoughts all day long, and not racing thoughts, just different subjects, different interests, different things that make me happy or make me sad. And knowing which ones do which, it becomes pretty easy to use my discernment to decide what I want in my life, you see. But first, before I can use discernment, before I can make a decision, I first have to understand what I'm doing. A lot of people, they just swing for the fences. They don't know what they're doing, and they're all sitting on the bench. All of them. But if you just took like 5 minutes to be mindful, and that's a long time, it seems like. It seems like asking somebody to take 5 minutes of their life to help themselves, most people can't be bothered. Which is weird because you'll spend 8 hours at a job that you hate for money you already have spent before you get it. And all of that frustration is worth 8 hours a day of your life. But thinking for yourself, 5 minutes is a fucking problem for you? That's a you problem. It's not a me problem. So I wore my explorer hat today because we're going into the mind, right? See the mushrooms on my hat, right? Drug reference. Oh, what goddamn drug? Oh, that's a skull on my hat too. So that's Grateful Dead. So I must be part of a cult as well. Mindfulness. Have you ever been to a Grateful Dead show? And have you ever ate mushrooms? If the answer is no to either one of those, then you're not being mindful. What you're doing is you're holding on to somebody else's pocket that told you this is what it is. And because this is what it is, that's what it must be. See, it's not just that somehow our language excludes entire realms of thought possibility by limiting what it must be based on definition. But then they teach you that the definitions of something, based on the words used, are the only way that you can look at it. It's just like Christians. If you don't believe in the Son Jesus Christ, you will go to hell. The only way to talk to God is to let Jesus Christ into your heart and let him talk to God for you, because you're not even fucking worthy. The very creation supposedly that God made, but you're not fucking worthy to do it. So you better go to church and you better pray and you better put your money in the fucking collection plate and you better fucking hope that preacher's got something to tell you. Because you've been taught that to be mindful is to listen to someone else. And that is definitely, you're supposed to listen to yourself when you're mindful. But church teaches you that mindful is to listen to something outside of yourself. Weird, right? Mindfulness. Another way to look at mindfulness is you have a job or a task to complete. Yeah, whatever it is. And how well you do that is based on how many circumstances you've been in previously to deal with that situation. You can get lucky a first time and then learn from that and continue to build just a perfect track record. You can do that. But you got to get lucky the first time. You got to make mistakes. You got to fail to win, to succeed. Do you not? You have to practice to become good at something. And every time you fail, you add one little piece into the fucking bank of mindfulness in regards to that task or that situation or that person. You see how this is kind of getting really serious really quick? How it's like actually integrated into everything we actually do, but they never talk about it like this, do they? No, no, they've already given you your definition of mindfulness. You can be happy with one definition, very small, on a piece of paper, linear, in a dictionary, and that's all you get. And if you think past that, but we do this all the time, we're mindful, especially of somebody we care about or we hate. You know more about your enemies than you know about the ones you love, and you know it. You know it. There's no lying about it. You're mindful of people that don't like you. You know why or how or what you have to watch out for, because your mind is full of this thought process. So how come mindful is only supposed to be used on other people? How come being mindful is put in the dictionary in our textbooks as an understanding or a measurement? How come mindful can't just be meditation? It can it? Yeah, it can. And we can say, well, what are you saying? Because you're just being like blatantly obvious, like you're being Captain Obvious. Yeah? Have you ever talked about mindfulness before? Ever like this? Ever? Ever? No. And I'm mindful of the fact that I never hear conversations like this. See, because I seek out knowledge. Guys, that's all I do is I seek out new knowledge. I want to listen to new people and new opinions and new science and new math and everything else we can come up with. I want to hear about it. I want to hear what people are theorizing about on the edges of what we know for sure, which is zero. If magic suddenly existed in the world and it was real and it had always been real and just most people didn't know about it, but it was real. And I'm using magic as an example because I'd hate to say toaster. So what if magic was real the whole time? And just because you didn't understand that it was real didn't make it less real. And just because you couldn't comprehend what it was doesn't mean it didn't exist. It was your perception that needed to grow, not the truth. It was never the truth that needed to grow at all. It was always your perception. And the only way that you can change your perception on something is if you think about it. And if you think about it, you're in your mind. And if you're consumed with actually thinking about it to solve it, then it's full. And if you're existing in that situation, and this is just I'm just assuming, which makes an ass out of you and me, you're trying to fix something, then you're in that vibe. You're consumed with it. Your mindfulness is focused. Weird, right? It's weird being able to talk to people that I've never met and express an idea that we can connect on and disagree on. And at the same time, we all have to think differently based on the words used. It's almost like free will is mindfulness. Because if I know that this is a problem, if I know that thing's going to bother me, if I know that person's going to hurt me, if I know that if I get into that situation, that nothing good is going to come of it, then you have to figure out what the factor is that keeps making you make these decisions. And I'll tell you what it is. Oh, I'm sure of it. Money. Your God. You sacrifice more things to your God than I have ever seen in my life. If you sacrificed half that to fucking the religion you believed in, you'd really be cursed. Let me ask you a question, and this is just theology, right? If God existed and God created all, if God existed and if God created all, if, and none of you believe it, so it doesn't matter, it's just talking. But do you think in any way, shape, or form that destroying the smallest atom in this world would gain you favor after you were dead? I just want to understand. I want to get your view on it. I want to understand your mindfulness. You believe in something that absolutely tells you that the way you are is fucking toxic and terrible, and you still choose to believe in the thing that considers you the problem. Let me say this again. If you believe in something that makes you think that another human being based on race, religion, creed, sexual orientation, or mental stability somehow makes you different than someone else, you're right and wrong at the same time. You're on the right track because you are unique, but you're a human. I can take your kidney and put it in my body if our blood matches up. Do you understand? It's an interchangeable thing. I can't take a dog fucking spleen and put it in me, can I? I can't go get an orca and throw it in my fucking body, can I? But I can take another human being's part and fucking put it in myself and make it work, can I? We figured that out, didn't we? It would not be possible if you were not human. And so you are human. This mindfulness, this idea that you should think for yourself, that somehow you can't or you won't, or that your life is unmanageable. What if it's really good? What if your life is really good? What is the point of mindfulness? Keeping it that way? Knowing better than allow situations in your life, people in your life, business opportunities, all that shit. You know better. And you know why you know better? Discernment. And why do you have discernment? Because you've been mindful of what's going on around you. Do you see how I use their definition right at the end? Because it does describe an action or a reaction to things. It's knowledge, but they never talk about it as your mind being full. They don't at all. It's never an issue. It's never a thing. It's never something we can talk about. It's not supposed to be. It's really weird to me. See, because the thing is, when I started this, I had a few things to say. I had a few topics that I wanted to cover. And every day when I wake up, it's the littlest thing now. It's like I can just hear a word used in a sentence somewhere else and make a whole video off it because it's like I can see it all of a sudden. I'm being mindful that I'm being lied to about the basic building blocks of how I've learned to understand the world. And in doing so, I'm finding blatant discrepancies between point A and point B. And I'm finding an entire world in between A and B. And they shouldn't exist because the truth of the world says they're just A, B. And it's not. It's why they don't teach philosophy. It's why there's no jobs in which you can, through thinking, you get paid. They don't pay you for that service. Nobody pays you for being mindful. They just expect you to be mindful and do what the fuck you're told for money. You ever had a boss you didn't know fuck all about the job, and you and the rest of the crew were getting it done, and if you guys weren't there, your boss wouldn't even have a fucking company at all? That's every company. That's not just one of them. That's every company in America. If they didn't have you, the human being, figuring out their problems and fixing it for them so they can profit, they wouldn't exist. You know how many machinists could just say, fuck this, and go start their own machine shop and only work for themselves and make just as much money as they were working at somebody else's machine shop? But nobody's mindful of the fact that they're a slave somehow because you're choosing it. And that's what the crux of all this is, and not being mindful is if you choose slavery, you're a slave. And if you make the decision, if you decide to give away who you are as a human being to be somebody else's human being, you have to make the decision to stop that. You have to be mindful of the fact that what you're doing isn't benefiting you, it's benefiting someone else. And if you're not doing it for free, if you're not trying to help somebody for free, if you're charging them every day to do something for them that's just a task, you're agreeing to every bad thing that happens to you in your life. You're agreeing that you're going to be at a certain time in a certain location every day. You're agreeing that the synchronicities of the universe will never find you because you'll never step outside of the very small lane that you put yourself in. You can't see because you can't think, and you don't need to think. That's the point of this. Most of them been done mundane. I don't know. I have a speech impediment sometimes. Something I can do. There's something in my brain that goes zzz. And it didn't used to be like that, but you've been listening to me talk on my. There was a lot of years of drugs. There was. There's a lot of years of drugs, and in those lot of years of drugs, I damaged myself. Luckily, not my intelligence, but sometimes I got a speech impediment, and I know what it's from, or I can't figure out what the word is. Even though I know it and I give you the definition and write it out, I can't say it. I can spell it and everything, but I can't say it. It's a speech impediment. Nothing I can do about it. It's the price you pay for not being mindful of what you're doing to yourself. I think mindful is a very important mindset to have. It's the only one that matters, is whether or not you're thinking. The only way new things can be created is through thought. You have to think it up before you can create it, before I can experience it. And if your whole life's on autopilot, if your brain only works and only does all the amazing things that it does when you're on task and you're just doing one thing that you've memorized, it's like you're a walking zombie. There's no more to you. You agree and accept the fact that you are a slave. And you go, I'm not a slave. Then why aren't you being mindful of your own life? Why are all these things barriers from you doing anything else? Why is it such a schedule that you follow if you're not a slave? Why can't you get up and do whatever you want today? What things are holding you back? I've never spoken on money being the root of all evil. It's just your God. And it's funny because you can use or abuse your God as much as you want, but you never get salvation out of it. You never get inner peace. You never feel good. Everything you experience is a temporary emotion, and it can be destroyed by the littlest upset. If I'm wrong, tell me about it. Make a comment. Why don't you share it out to your friends? Tell them how wrong I am. Let's get this going. Let's get an argument started. Because an argument is a debate. An argument becomes toxic when you attack another human being instead of continuing to try to make your point about the subject that you and another human being are discussing. And the second you attack, you become a wolf. I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. There ain't no way to stop me. The second you make yourself known to me, well, I heard you howl.